The Galactic Assembly had existed for 12,000 years. It was a group of 417 different alien species. They all worked together. They traded with each other. They protected each other from danger. The Assembly had rules that everyone followed. These rules kept the peace for thousands of years. The Assembly met on a giant space station. The station floated above a beautiful blue planet called Velthros. This was where all the important decisions were made. Representatives from every species came here to talk and vote on matters that affected the whole galaxy. In the year 2247, something new happened. A small ship appeared at the edge of Assembly space. It was not like any ship the aliens had seen before. It was simple and rough compared to their smooth vessels. But it worked. It had traveled faster than light. And it came from a planet called Earth. The humans had finally reached the stars. Captain Daniel Shaw stood on the bridge of his ship, the Meridian. He was 53 years old. His hair was turning gray at the sides. His hands were rough from years of hard work. He had started as a simple engineer and worked his way up to captain. Now he was about to represent all of humanity to the galaxy. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission," said his communications officer, a young woman named Lisa Cortez. Lisa was 31 years old. She had spent the last 3 years learning alien languages. She had studied day and night. She had listened to every transmission humanity had ever picked up from space. Now all that work would be tested. "Put it through," Daniel said. A voice filled the bridge. It was strange and musical. The words were in a language no human had ever heard before. But Lisa had prepared for this. She had created translation programs based on the patterns she had found. "They are welcoming us," Lisa said slowly, listening carefully. "They want us to follow their ship to the station." Daniel nodded. "Tell them we accept." The Meridian followed the alien vessel for 6 hours. As they got closer to the station, Daniel felt his heart beating faster. The station was enormous. It was bigger than any city on Earth. It had towers that stretched for miles. Lights blinked across its surface like stars. "How many people live there?" Daniel asked quietly. "Millions," Lisa answered. "Maybe more." When they docked, Daniel put on his best uniform. It was simple compared to what the aliens probably wore. But it was clean and pressed. It represented Earth with dignity. A group of aliens waited for them at the docking bay. The one in front was tall and thin. Its body seemed to be made of crystal. Light moved through it in beautiful patterns. This was Sorth, the Velthrani ambassador. "Welcome to the Galactic Assembly," Sorth said. His voice was translated through a small device on his chest. "We have watched your species for some time. We are pleased you have finally reached us." Daniel stepped forward. "Thank you for receiving us. We come with open hands and open hearts. We want only friendship and peace." Sorth made a motion that might have been a smile. "Those are good words. Come. The Assembly wishes to meet you." They walked through the station. Daniel tried not to stare, but it was hard. There were so many different kinds of aliens. Some had too many legs. Some had no legs at all. Some floated in the air. Some crawled along the walls. Each one stopped to look at the humans as they passed. "They are curious about you," Sorth explained. "New species do not appear often. Perhaps one every 100 years. You are a special event. How many species are in the Assembly?" Lisa asked. 417 at last count. Each one has been a member for at least 500 years. Some have been here since the beginning. Daniel thought about that. 12,000 years of history. 400 species working together. And humanity was just now joining. They had so much to learn. The assembly chamber was the biggest room Daniel had ever seen. It was round and went up for hundreds of floors. Each floor had seats for different species. In the center was a platform where speakers could address everyone. Sorath led them to the platform. "Today we welcome a new species to our family," Sorath announced. His voice carried through the entire chamber. "They call themselves humans. They come from a small planet called Earth in a quiet corner of the galaxy. They have achieved faster than light travel and have come to us in peace." Daniel stepped forward. He could feel thousands of alien eyes on him. Some had no eyes at all, but watched in their own ways. He took a deep breath. "Thank you for this welcome," he said. His voice was steady even though his heart was racing. "Humanity has looked at the stars for 10,000 years. We wondered if we were alone. We dreamed of meeting others who thought and felt and hoped like we do. Today that dream comes true." He paused and looked around the chamber. "We are a young species. We have made many mistakes. We have fought each other. We have hurt our own planet. But we have also loved. We have created art and music and stories. We have helped each other through hard times. We believe that what makes us weak can also make us strong." The chamber was silent. No one moved. "We do not come asking for charity," Daniel continued. "We come offering partnership. We will work hard. We will learn your ways. We will share what we know. All we ask is a chance to prove ourselves." When he finished, there was a long moment of quiet. Then, slowly, sounds began to fill the chamber. The craft clicked their hard mouths together. The Nulini swirled with bright colors. Other species made their own sounds of approval. Sorath approached Daniel. "That was well spoken. The assembly will vote on your membership, but I believe you will be accepted." Daniel let out a breath he did not know he was holding. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet," Sorath said. "Joining the assembly is easy. Staying is harder. Many species have failed. I hope humanity will not be one of them." Lisa moved closer to Daniel as they were led away to temporary quarters. "What do you think he meant by that?" she asked quietly. Daniel shook his head. "I do not know, but I think we will find out." That night, Daniel stood by the window of his room. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. His wife was there. His children. Everyone he had ever known. He had left them to find a place for humanity among the stars. Now that place was almost within reach. "We made it," he whispered to himself. We actually made it. But even as he celebrated, a small part of him felt worried. The galaxy was big. Humanity was small. And not everything in the universe was as welcoming as it first appeared. The next few decades would prove just how right that worry was. 40 years passed since humanity joined the Galactic Assembly. In that time, the humans had changed everything. They built colonies on 12 different planets. Their population grew from 8 billion to 15 billion. They learned to build ships that were faster and stronger than before. They traded with dozens of alien species. Human restaurants opened on space stations across the galaxy. Human music played in alien bars. Human stories were translated into hundreds of languages, but it was not the culture that worried the assembly. It was the fighting. The Vara Syndicate was a group of pirates and criminals. They attacked ships and stole cargo. They kidnapped people and demanded payment. For centuries, the assembly had tried to stop them. Nothing worked. The Varath were too fast, too cruel, and too willing to die. Then, the Varath attacked a human colony. The colony was called New Houston. It was a small mining settlement on a rocky moon. 3,000 people lived there. They dug metals from the ground and sent them to Earth. It was simple work. Honest work. The Varath came at night. Their ships dropped from the sky like falling rocks. They burned buildings. They killed anyone who fought back. They took 200 prisoners and loaded them onto their vessels. They thought it would be easy. They were wrong. Catherine Moore was not supposed to be on New Houston. She was an admiral in the Earth Defense Fleet. She had come to inspect the colony's defenses. When the attack started, she was in a meeting with the colony's governor. "Everyone get down," she shouted as explosions shook the building. Catherine was 45 years old. She had brown hair cut short. Her body was strong from years of military training. She had fought in 3 wars back on Earth before humanity even reached the stars. She knew how to survive. She grabbed a weapon from a fallen guard and ran outside. The streets were filled with smoke and screaming. Vorath soldiers moved through the chaos, shooting at anything that moved. Catherine did not run away. She ran toward them. "Follow me," she yelled to anyone who could hear. "Fight back. Do not let them take our home." 50 colonists joined her. They were miners and farmers and shop workers. They had never fought before, but they saw this woman running at the enemy, and something woke up inside them. Something old. Something human. The battle lasted 3 hours. By the end, the Vorath retreated. They took their prisoners and flew away. But they left behind 200 of their own dead soldiers. Catherine was hurt badly. A plasma blast had taken her left arm just below the elbow. She was bleeding. She should have fallen. But she stayed on her feet, giving orders, helping the wounded, organizing the survivors. "You need medical attention," said a young man named Peter Grant. He was just 22. He had been a cook before today. Now he had blood on his hands and fire in his eyes. "Later," Catherine said. "First we help our people." Word of the battle spread quickly. The assembly was shocked. Colonists had fought back against the Vorath? Untrained civilians had killed 200 enemy soldiers? This had never happened before. But the story was not over. Catherine sent a message to Earth. "The Vorath took our people. I am going to get them back. Send ships." The Earth government sent 5 warships. Catherine took command from a hospital bed on one of them. Her arm was wrapped in bandages. Machines kept her alive, but she refused to rest. "Find them," she ordered. "Follow their trail. We will not stop until our people are safe." For 19 days, the ships chased the Vorath across the galaxy. They fought 7 battles. They lost 1 ship and 200 sailors. But they kept going. On the 19th day, they found the Vorath base. It was hidden inside an asteroid belt. The pirates thought they were safe there. They were not. Catherine led the attack herself. She stood on the bridge of her ship, giving commands with one hand. Her face was pale from blood loss. Her voice was rough from lack of sleep. But her orders were clear and sharp. "All ships, attack pattern Delta. Target their engines first. We want prisoners, not bodies." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Vorath base was destroyed. Their fleet was gone, and all 200 human prisoners walked free. The whole galaxy watched. Sorath came to visit Catherine in the hospital after she returned to assembly space. She was lying in a bed, her missing arm now replaced by a metal one. She looked tired. She looked old. But her eyes were still sharp. "How did you do it?" Sorath asked. He truly did not understand. "Your species needs sleep. You need food. You need rest. You should have failed long before the end." Catherine looked at him for a long moment. "Do you have children, Sorath?" The question surprised him. "My species does not reproduce in that way, but I understand the concept. When I was a little girl, my mother told me a story. She said that humans are weak. We are soft. We get sick. We grow old. We die. But she said we have something that makes us strong. She called it heart." Sorath tilted his head. "I do not understand. Heart means we do not give up. It means we fight for what we love even when we are afraid. Even when we are hurt. Even when we know we might lose. Those prisoners were our people, our family. We would have chased the Vorath to the end of the universe to bring them home. Sorith was quiet for a long time. This troubles me, he admitted finally. Why? Because I do not know if it makes you admirable or dangerous. Catherine smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Maybe it makes us both. After Sorith left, he went to the High Council. This was the group of 12 elder species who made the biggest decisions for the Assembly. They had been running things for thousands of years. They thought they understood how the galaxy worked. Sorith showed them records of the battle. He showed them reports of human soldiers fighting until their bodies gave out. He showed them stories of ordinary people becoming warriors overnight. They are not like other species, Sorith said. They do not calculate risk like we do. They do not stop when logic says they should stop. They have a capacity for both great love and great violence that I've never seen before. The High Council listened. Some were worried. Some were curious. One ancient being, a Morvathi named Zeth, who had lived for 6,000 years, spoke up. All young species are passionate, Zeth said slowly. It fades with time. I do not believe it will fade with them, Sorith replied. I have studied their history. They have always been this way. 10,000 years of records show the same pattern. They fight. They lose. They fight again. They never truly give up. What do you suggest we do? Another council member asked. Sorith did not answer right away. He thought about Captain Daniel Shaw, who had seemed so humble and hopeful 40 years ago. He thought about Catherine Moore, who had chased pirates across the galaxy with one arm and no sleep. He thought about the miners of New Houston, who had picked up weapons and charged at their attackers. I do not know, he admitted, but I believe we must watch them very carefully, because if humanity ever turns that passion against us, I do not think we could stop them. The council members looked at each other. For the first time in centuries, they felt something they had almost forgotten. Fear. And in the dark spaces between stars, humanity kept growing, kept building, kept becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. Something wonderful, something terrible, something that would change everything. The message came on a quiet morning. Ambassador Christopher Blake was drinking coffee in his office on the assembly station. He was 60 years old, with white hair and tired eyes. He had spent 30 years representing humanity to the galaxy. He thought he understood how things worked. He was wrong. His assistant, Maria Santos, brought him the document. Her hands were shaking. Her face was pale. Sir, you need to read this. Now. Christopher took the paper. It was stamped with the seal of the High Council. This was the highest authority in the Assembly. Their word was law. He read it once. Then he read it again. Then he put it down and stared at the wall. This cannot be real, he said. I have confirmed it with 3 sources, Maria replied. It is real. The document was called Resolution 7742. It had been passed by a vote of the High Council the night before. No one had told humanity it was being discussed. No one had given them a chance to speak. The resolution said that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to grow freely. It listed reasons. Humans expanded too fast. Humans fought too hard. Humans did not follow the same logic as other species. If left alone, humans would dominate the assembly within 100 years. Therefore, the resolution said humanity would be restricted. All human colonies outside the Earth solar system would be taken over by the assembly. The 15 billion people living there would be moved to approved locations. Human military ships would be dismantled. Human faster-than-light technology would be controlled by the assembly. Humans would not be allowed to leave their home system without special permission. For the safety and stability of the galactic community, the document said Doc Christopher felt cold. This was not a request. This was not a suggestion. This was an order backed by the full power of 400 species. "Get me a meeting with the High Council," Christopher said quietly. "Today." Maria nodded and rushed out. Christopher stood by his window and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were living their lives, working, building, dreaming. They had no idea what was coming. How do you tell your people that their future has been stolen? The High Council met in a chamber deep inside the station. The 12 eldest species sat in a circle. Each one had lived for thousands of years. Each one had seen civilizations rise and fall. They believed they knew best. Christopher walked into the center of the circle. He felt small. He felt young. He felt angry. Soreth was there. His crystalline body flickered with colors Christopher did not recognize. Was it regret? Shame? It was hard to tell. "Ambassador Blake," said Zeth, the ancient Morvathi. His voice was slow and deep like grinding stones. "You have requested this meeting. Speak." Christopher held up the document. "Is this real? Have you truly decided to cage my entire species?" "The word cage is not accurate," another council member said. "She was Valari, a being of pure light. We are simply ensuring balance." "Balance?" Christopher's voice rose. "You want to take our colonies, our ships, our freedom, and you call it balance?" "Your species advances too quickly," Soreth said. There was something like sadness in his voice. "In 40 years, you have done what most species take 400 years to do. At this rate, you will surpass us all. And that is a crime?" "It is a threat." This came from a Krath representative, a large insectoid being. "The assembly has existed for 12,000 years because we maintain balance. No single species is allowed to become too powerful. This has kept the peace." Christopher looked around the circle. He saw no sympathy. He saw only fear dressed up as wisdom. "We have done nothing wrong," he said. "We have followed your rules. We have traded fairly. We have fought your enemies. Our soldiers died protecting assembly space from the Varth. And this is how you repay us." "We recognize your contributions," Zeth said slowly. "That is why we are not expelling you from the assembly entirely. You will still have a voice. You will still have representation. You will simply be limited." Limited. Christopher laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You fear what we might become, so you are punishing us for crimes we have not committed." "We are preventing problems before they begin," Valari said. "Surely you can understand this. I understand that you are cowards." The chamber went silent. No one spoke to the High Council that way. Christopher did not care anymore. "You have watched us for 40 years. You have seen us work hard. You have seen us help others. You have seen us sacrifice our lives for this assembly. And what did you learn? You learned to be afraid. You looked at our determination and saw only danger. You looked at our passion and saw only violence." He stepped closer to the council members. "We left Earth because we wanted to join something bigger than ourselves. We wanted to be part of a family of stars. We thought you were wise. We thought you were fair. We were wrong." "Ambassador Blake," Sora said carefully, "I understand your anger, but you must see our position. If humanity continues to grow at this rate, you will control the assembly within a century. Other species will become meaningless. And you think caging us will solve this? You think we will simply accept our chains?" No one answered. Christopher took a deep breath. "I need to contact my government. My leaders will need to respond to this officially." Zeth nodded. "Of course. We expected nothing less. You have 1 month to comply with Resolution 7742. After that, the assembly will take action to enforce it." Christopher turned and walked out of the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the silence. Maria was waiting for him outside. "How did it go?" she asked. "Badly. Send a message to Earth. Priority 1. Tell them everything." The message traveled across the stars. It reached Earth in 3 hours. Within 6 hours, every human in the galaxy knew what had happened. The response was immediate. On Earth, people gathered in the streets. Not to riot, not to fight, just to stand together, to show that they would not break. On the colonies, workers put down their tools and looked up at the sky. They thought about their homes, their families, their futures. They wondered what would happen next. In the military, soldiers and sailors grew quiet. They checked their weapons. They looked at each other. They did not speak, but they all thought the same thing. Are we really going to let this happen? President Samuel Garcia called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Parliament. Leaders from every nation and every colony joined by video link. It was the largest gathering in human history. "My fellow humans," Samuel began. His voice was heavy with the weight of the moment. "We have received word from the Galactic Assembly. They have decided that we are too dangerous to be free. They want to take our colonies. They want to break our ships. They want to lock us in our home system like prisoners." He paused. "They are afraid of what we might become. So they want to make sure we become nothing." The chamber was silent. "We have a choice to make. We can submit. We can accept their chains and hope that someday they will see us differently. Or we can do something else. Something that has never been done before." He looked around at the faces watching him. Old faces and young faces. Faces full of fear and faces full of fire. "We can walk away." The word hung in the air. "We can leave the assembly. We can go our own way. We can build our own future without their permission and without their restrictions. It will be hard. It will be dangerous. But it will be ours." The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for peace. Some argued for war. But in the end, it was not about peace or war. It was about dignity. The vote was nearly unanimous. Humanity would not bow. Humanity would not beg. Humanity would not accept the cage. Humanity would walk away, and the galaxy would never be the same. The assembly chamber was full. Every species had sent representatives. The room buzzed with hundreds of different languages, all being translated at once. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. They all expected humanity to surrender. After all, what choice did they have? The assembly had 400 species. They had millions of ships. They had weapons that could destroy planets. Humanity had 12 colonies and a few hundred warships. The math was simple. Surrender was the only logical choice. Ambassador Christopher Blake walked into the chamber alone. He wore his formal uniform, black with gold buttons. His white hair was neatly combed. His face showed nothing. Sorth watched him approach the central platform. The crystalline ambassador had not slept well since the vote. Something felt wrong. Humans were supposed to be angry. They were supposed to threaten and shout and make demands. Christopher was calm. Too calm. "The Assembly recognizes Ambassador Christopher Blake of Earth," announced the chamber speaker. "You may address the council." Christopher stepped onto the platform. He looked around at the assembled species. 400 different kinds of beings, all watching him, waiting for him to bend, waiting for him to break. He did not bend. He did not break. "Representatives of the Galactic Assembly," he began. His voice was clear and steady. "I come here today to deliver the response of the human race to Resolution 7742. The chamber grew quiet. Everyone leaned forward. "The people of Earth have considered your proposal carefully. We have discussed it in our parliaments. We have debated it in our homes. We have thought about it in our hearts. He paused. We reject it. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some beings shifted uncomfortably. Others made sounds of surprise. We reject your fear, Christopher continued. We reject your restrictions. We reject the idea that we must be caged because you are afraid of what we might become. Zeth, the ancient Morvathi, raised one of his massive limbs. Ambassador, perhaps you do not understand. This is not a request. This is a decision of the High Council. It will be enforced. Christopher turned to face him. I understand perfectly. You have decided that humanity is too dangerous to be free. You have decided to take our colonies, our ships, our future. You believe we have no choice but to accept. That is correct. Then let me be very clear. Christopher's voice hardened. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Assembly. We renounce all treaties, all agreements, all obligations. We will leave your territories within 30 days. After that, you will not hear from us again. The chamber exploded with noise. Species shouted over each other. Some were confused. Some were angry. Some were terrified. Soreth pushed his way forward. You cannot do this. No species has ever left the assembly voluntarily. It is unprecedented. Then we will be the first. But why? If you leave, you will have nothing. No protection. No trade. No allies. You will be alone in a hostile galaxy. Christopher smiled. It was a cold smile. A hard smile. We have been alone before. We survived. We will survive again. He reached up and removed the diplomatic credentials from his chest. The small badge that marked him as an official representative of Earth to the Assembly. He placed it on the podium. Goodbye. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. The chamber was in chaos. Representatives screamed and argued. Some tried to follow him. Some demanded that security stop him. But no one actually moved to block his path, because deep down, they were afraid, not of what humanity might do, but of what they had already done. Soreth caught up to Christopher just before he reached the door. Wait, the crystalline being said. Please, let us talk about this. There must be another way. Christopher stopped but did not turn around. For 40 years, I served in this assembly. I believed in its mission. I thought we were building something beautiful together. A family of stars. We were. We are. Now Christopher turned. His eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. You taught us that we were dangerous. You taught us that our passion was a flaw. You taught us that we could not be trusted with freedom. He shook his head. But you know what? You were right about one thing. We are dangerous. Not because we want to hurt anyone, but because we refuse to be controlled. What will you do? Soreth asked. Where will you go? Out there. Christopher gestured toward the stars visible through the chamber's windows. Into the dark. Into the unknown. We will build our own future. And someday, when you realize what you have lost, we will still be there. Stronger than before. Better than before. And we will remember what you did today. He walked out. Behind him, the assembly watched in silence. 400 species. 12,000 years of civilization. And they had no idea what to do. Because Christopher was right about one thing. In all their history, no species had ever simply walked away, and it terrified them. Over the next 30 days, humanity left assembly space. Ships carried millions of people away from colonies they had built with their own hands. Factories were shut down. Homes were abandoned. Entire cities went dark. The evacuation was orderly. There was no violence. No sabotage. Humans simply packed their things and left. On the final day, a human freighter captain named Grace Patterson made the last jump out of assembly territory. She was 63 years old. She had spent her whole life trading between human colonies and alien worlds. Now she was leaving everything she knew behind. Any last words? Her first mate asked as they prepared to jump. Grace looked out at the stars. Somewhere behind them was the assembly, the species that had welcomed humanity, the species that had betrayed them. Yes, she said. Tell them we will remember this. Tell them we will be back. And tell them they will wish they had treated us differently. The ship jumped into the void dot, and humanity was gone dot in the assembly. Reactions were mixed. Some species celebrated. The human threat had been removed without a single shot fired. The galaxy was safe again. Others were not so sure. Sora stood alone in his quarters, looking out at the empty space where human ships used to travel. He had done what he thought was right. He had protected the assembly from a species that grew too fast, fought too hard, cared too much. But standing there in the silence, he could not shake a terrible feeling. What if we made a mistake? He thought about Captain Daniel Shaw, who had come to the assembly with hope in his eyes. He thought about Admiral Catherine Moore, who had fought until her body broke. He thought about Ambassador Christopher Blake, who had walked away with dignity instead of rage. These were not the actions of a dangerous species. These were the actions of a proud people who had been pushed too far. Sorath made a decision. He would keep watching. He would keep records. And someday, when the time was right, he would try to fix what had been broken. He did not know if that day would ever come. But somewhere out in the dark, humanity was already working on their answer. Already building. Already growing. Already becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. The assembly thought they had removed a threat. They had no idea they had created something much more powerful. They had created a humanity with nothing left to lose. And that humanity was about to change everything. 100 years passed. The galaxy changed, but not in the ways the assembly expected. Without human traders, many routes fell silent. Without human soldiers, the Vora Syndicate grew bold again. Without human scientists, research slowed to a crawl. The assembly had thought humans were a threat. Now they learned that humans had been a gift. Trade dropped by 40%. Crime rose by 60%. New discoveries became rare. Old alliances crumbled. Species that had worked together for centuries began to argue and fight. And from beyond the borders of assembly space, strange rumors began to spread. Traders who ventured too close to human territory came back with wild stories. They spoke of ships that were bigger than moons. They spoke of planets that had been made green and alive. They spoke of humans who lived for 300 years. Most species did not believe these stories. Surely they were just tales. Surely no one could advance that quickly. But Sorath believed. He was very old now, even for his species. His crystalline body had grown cloudy with age. His movements were slow, but his mind was still sharp, and he had never stopped watching the humans. He went to the High Council with a request. "I want to go to them," he said. "I want to see what they have become." The council debated for 3 days. Some said it was too dangerous. Some said it was pointless. But in the end, they agreed. They were curious too. Sorath took a small ship and flew to war human space. He traveled for 2 weeks, past old trade routes that were now empty, past abandoned stations that were falling apart. The further he went, the quieter space became. Then, suddenly, it was not quiet anymore. Human ships appeared around him. Not one or two, hundreds. They moved in perfect formation, surrounding his vessel without touching it. A voice came through his communication system. It was calm and professional. "Unknown vessel, you have entered United Earth Federation territory. Please identify yourself and state your purpose." Sorath transmitted his credentials. "I am Sorath of the Velthrani. I was the ambassador who welcomed humanity to the assembly 140 years ago. I come in peace. I wish to speak with your leaders." There was a long pause. Then the voice returned. "Ambassador Soreth, we know who you are. You will be escorted to Earth. Please follow the lead ship." The journey to Earth took 3 more days. As they traveled, Soreth saw things that made his ancient heart ache. Human cities floated in the darkness of space, each one home to millions of people. Ships traveled between them like blood cells in a body. Stations orbited gas giants, pulling energy from their storms. Asteroids have been turned into factories, pumping out materials at speeds the assembly could never match. Humanity had not just survived. They had thrived. When they finally reached Earth, Soreth was brought to a garden on the western coast of a continent called North America. The garden overlooked a vast blue ocean. The sky was clear and bright. Birds sang in the trees. A man was waiting for him there. He was young, perhaps 40 years old. He had dark hair and kind eyes. His name was Nathan Garcia, and he was the president of the United Earth Federation. "Ambassador Soreth," Nathan said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Welcome to Earth." Soreth took his hand. The touch was warm, human. "Thank you for receiving me. I was not sure you would." Nathan smiled. "We debated it. Some wanted to turn you away. But in the end, we decided that would not be very human of us." They walked together through the garden. Flowers of every color surrounded them. The air smelled sweet and clean. "You want to know what happened to us," Nathan said. It was not a question. "Yes, when you left the assembly, you had 12 colonies and a few hundred ships. Now you have an empire. We do not call it an empire. We call it a family." Nathan stopped by a bench and sat down. He gestured for Soreth to join him. "After we left the assembly, we had a choice. We could be bitter. We could spend our energy hating you and planning revenge. Or we could do something else. What did you do?" "We decided to prove you wrong." Nathan looked out at the ocean. "You said we were too dangerous. You said we grew too fast. You said we could not be trusted. So we decided to show you what we could do when we were not held back." He turned to face Soreth. "We built cities in space. We cleaned our planet. We cured diseases that had killed us for thousands of years. We learned to extend our lives. We created machines that think and dream alongside us. We did in 100 years what the assembly said would take 1,000. Soreth was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the council's fears. He thought about his own warnings. He thought about how wrong they had all been. "I am sorry," he said finally. "I was one of the voices that called for your restriction. I let fear guide my actions. I helped cause this." Nathan nodded slowly. "I know. Our records are very complete. We know exactly who voted for Resolution 7742. We know who spoke against us. We know everything. And yet you agreed to meet with me. Because humans do not hold grudges forever. Not if we can help it." Nathan picked a flower from a nearby bush. "When I was a child, my grandfather told me about the day humanity left the assembly. He said it was the saddest day of his life. Not because we lost something, but because we had to walk away from beings we had wanted so badly to call friends." Soreth felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Shame. "Why did you come here, Ambassador?" Nathan asked gently. "What do you want?" Soreth gathered his thoughts. "The assembly is failing. Without you, we are falling apart. Trade has collapsed. Crime has risen. We have not made a significant scientific discovery in 50 years. We need help. You want us to come back?" "Yes." Nathan was quiet for a long time. The waves crashed against the shore below. Birds circled overhead. The wind moved through the trees. "We will not come back to the assembly as it was," Nathan said finally. Your structure was built on fear, on keeping species down so no one could rise too high. We will not be part of that. Then what do you propose? Nathan stood and looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, human ships were flying. Human stations were spinning. Human dreams were becoming real. Something new, he said. A partnership instead of a hierarchy. A coalition of equals instead of a collection of subjects. We will share what we have learned. We will help rebuild what has fallen. But we will never again accept chains, no matter how soft they seem. Soreth rose to stand beside him. That is a big change. The Council may not accept it. Then the Council will have to learn what we learned 100 years ago. What is that? Nathan turned to face him. In his eyes, Soreth saw something familiar. The same fire that had burned in Catherine Moore as she fought the Varth. The same dignity that had shone in Christopher Blake as he walked out of the assembly. The same hope that had filled Daniel Shaw when he first stepped onto the assembly station so long ago. That the future belongs to those who are brave enough to reach for it, and stubborn enough to never let go. Soreth extended his crystalline hand. Nathan took it. Then let us begin again, Soreth said. Yes, Nathan agreed. Let us begin again. Word spread across the galaxy. Humanity was coming back. Not as the young species that had been rejected. Not as the threat that had been feared. But as equals. As partners. As friends. Some species welcomed this news. Others were afraid. A few were angry that humans had been proven right, but it did not matter what they felt. The future was arriving, whether they were ready or not, and at the center of that future stood humanity, battered but unbroken, rejected but unbowed, ready to build something beautiful out of the ashes of betrayal. The galaxy had watched in horror. As humans walked away from the assembly, now the galaxy watched in wonder as humans walked back in, and nothing would ever be the same again. The end.